I'm Dwight Drummond. Tonight, recent threats towards the LGBTQ community have some concern ahead of this weekend's Pride Parade.
We've also seen an increase in attacks, individual attacks on the 2S LGBTQ community.
We'll have details on the new safety measures being put in place to protect Pride. Plus,
the weather is great today so far.
Just like a little hot.
It's hot there, but still it's really good.
Torontonians are feeling the heat as temperatures reach the 30s. We'll show you how the city is preparing as summer gets underway. And
this is when you win, when no one is expecting you to win.
Ukraine's president addresses Canadian students, urging them not to become tired of the war. After a pandemic hiatus, the Pride Parade will take over downtown streets again on Sunday. It's expected to draw tens of thousands of participants this year. Organizers are adding some security precautions after recent threats against members of the LGBTQ+ community. Alicia Son is live in the village for us tonight. And Ali, what have you learned about this increased security?
So, Dwight, think about it like when you go to a big concert. Sometimes you'll have to pass through a metal detector, or sometimes someone will pass a wand over you. And this is to make sure that no one's bringing anything dangerous to the event. And to be clear, there aren't any specific threats for Pride Toronto. This is out of an abundance of caution.
Toronto Pride is in full swing and has gone off without a hitch. Organizers want to keep it that way.
Pride has always been a safe place for our community. We're working on making it even safer.
Going forward at Toronto Pride official events, attendees will be subject to weapons checks with the use of metal detectors at enclosed stage events. To be clear, police are not aware of any specific threat at Toronto Pride.
But the ongoing threat to the 2S LGBTQ community is what caused us to take these steps.
Like only 2 weeks ago, when a 17-year-old boy from Ontario was arrested and charged for allegedly making threats to commit a mass shooting at a Pride event in West Palm Beach, Florida.
I mean, we've seen it in the past at other events, sadly, and I think it is important. I think it would only benefit everyone.
Maybe if we look to the big picture, it might be needed, but I never felt unsafe in Toronto.
Folks in the village today generally welcomed the news, but felt it unfortunate that it's come to this.
I think it's something that is important. I mean, you see what's going on in the world too, what's going on down south. So I think it's something that should be implemented.
Especially because Pride Toronto expects this weekend's festivities to be some of the busiest they've seen.
2 years of virtual celebrations, and over the 2 years, Canada, Toronto, have now become home to more 2S LGBTQ members, whether they're refugees from Afghanistan or from, Ukraine. We've also had young people that were 13, 14, 15, prior to the pandemic are now out and they want to come out and celebrate. For a lot of folks, it is their first Pride, and we want to create a safe environment.
I think it's great. I mean, there's a lot going on in the city. I'd rather people be safe than sorry.
So it's important to note that this will not be an increase of police presence. Pride Toronto will be working with security firms that are either queer-owned and operated or understand the queer community. They wanted to make that distinction clear so that everybody's comfortable with this new change. Dwight.
Thank you, Ali. Today, the city's police board officially received the police race-based data report from last week. It found unfair treatment and over-policing of Black, Indigenous, and other communities of color. And it resulted in an apology from the chief. Lorenda Redekop has more on the reaction today.
Today, the mayor expressed the same frustration about the race-based data heard from many in the community.
It clearly tells us we have a problem, but the nature of the anonymized data is such that you can't drill down and determine where the problem lies.
The report, released exactly a week ago, found Black, Indigenous, and Middle Eastern people were all overrepresented when it comes to police enforcement, and that there's a bias in how they're dealt with.
The system is made up of individuals. So if we have an issue with the system, there obviously absolutely has to be an issue with the individuals within that system.
But the chief once again said the data cannot be used to weed out any individual officers.
The data standard under the Anti-Racism Act
restricts the use and reporting of personal information that is collected under the Act. That data standard was used by the board in crafting its policy. Our current data analysis was built to comply with the board's policy, and thus it simply cannot be used for individual performance issues.
Today, the board also heard from members of the community. One man was upset with the apology itself and how it was made.
I am sorry, and I apologize unreservedly.
Not in front of the communities treated unfairly.
Members of the media were there. The affected communities were not invited. This is the level of respect, or dare I say disrespect, that black folks receive.
He also named off a handful of reports over the years with recommendations and says the same problems with policing continue. It's the province that required this type of data. The mayor called on the government to mandate all police services to collect their race-based data the same way, to allow comparison and analysis across police forces. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Inflation continues to run at generational highs in Canada. Last month, consumers were hit with a 7.7% increase in costs. That's the biggest year-over-year jump since 1983, driven mainly by the cost of fuel and food. Nisha Patel has more.
With every jump in gas prices, Bonnie Calderosi's bills get bigger.
It's becoming very difficult to manage a small business with a transportation as your main core business.
Her Dartmouth courier business relies on 20 drivers. Some travel long distances. She now has to charge customers more so she can compensate her drivers feeling the pain at the pump.
Keeping our drivers happy, keeping our clients happy, and it's a juggling act.
Gas prices are up 48% compared to the same time last year. The national average is more than $2 a litre. Meanwhile, food prices continue to soar. Cooking oil bubbled up a record 30%. Fresh vegetables cost 10% more. Meat prices were up 9%. Those are all products Jamil Bouya uses at his restaurant every day.
I mean, we've seen things go up literally 50% overnight. And it's been very hard to stomach and swallow.
Bouya opened his Toronto burger shop during the pandemic. After surviving 2 years of uncertainty, now it's inflation taking a bite out of his business.
There's just no really predictability. I think that's probably the most difficult part, not knowing when things are going to stabilize in terms of costs.
Some of what's driving inflation is global, such as the war in Ukraine restricting commodities from oil to wheat. What the central bank can do is hike interest rates to cool domestic spending, but it will take time for those to have an impact.
We do expect a further acceleration above 8% year-over-year inflation in June, so we haven't even seen the worst of it yet.
When asked about today's record inflation report, the senior deputy governor of the Bank of Canada admitted the number was unwelcome.
We know inflation is keeping Canadians up at night. It's keeping us up at night. And we will not rest easy until we get it back down to target.
Economists say the Bank of Canada has lots of work ahead to bring inflation down. Most analysts predict interest rates to rise by 75 basis points in July, perhaps even bigger hikes in the months ahead. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
If you were looking forward to the Taste of the Danforth this year, you'll have to wait. The festival has been postponed. Meg Roberts is out on the Danforth. Meg, a lot of events are returning to the city, so why did organizers decide to cancel Taste this year?
Well, the Danforth BIA, they say they simply didn't have enough time to plan this big of an event. They said over the winter they were unsure of what COVID-19 measures would look like this summer. Also, there's been a number of changes to the street here. There's been the addition of bike paths, also Cafe Tio patios. The BIA in a statement said they would have needed more time to adapt the festival to the street. Now, more than 1 million people visit Danforth for the festival in August. The BIA said it was too great of a risk to not deliver an event like years past. So now they say they're going to work hard to make sure the festival will still be the best it can be in 2023.
Now, Meg, this is an event a lot of folks look forward to in this city. So what are you hearing then from people in that community about this cancellation?
Yeah, I've spoken to a number of people out here, and obviously they are upset about this news. A restaurant here on the Danforth, Sugar Cane, it opened in 2019. They haven't really had an opportunity to participate in Taste of the Danforth, and they were really looking forward to it. The owner told me it's been a really hard 2 years with the pandemic, and they were relying on this financial boost.
Very disappointed. Like, I read the email, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's just, already we haven't gotten the grants that were promised by the government, and I know everyone, all the restaurants were looking forward to this because it really helps us out, especially with the not having it for 2 years. And then we get this email, and it's just like, it's really disappointing because everyone was looking forward to this. Everyone was so excited. Like every festival, all the other festivals are going on, Jazz Fest, Caravana, and this is the only one that's not going on.
Now, the owner says she would have been happy to remove her patio from in front of her business, and she was talking with other local business owners who said they would have done the same. Now, obviously, it's not just restaurant owners who are upset by this news, but also nearby residents as well.
I think that's kind of a bit unfun. I just can't believe that's happening. Just COVID.
I think they're going to feel the crunch of no businesses and no tourism on the street. Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's kind of sad that way. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty busy most nights, but I know that that's like a big one. I was at Taste of Little Italy last weekend, so I know it like draws in a lot of people. And it's like a reason to come to the Danforth. So yeah, it's a shame that no one else will get to experience it the way that I get to every day.
Now, as you heard in that clip there with the owner, a number of other events are still happening this summer. TIFF, Pride, the Caribbean Festival, they're all going ahead with the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions. Now, the Danforth BIS says they will still continue this summer with some smaller events. Dwight.
Thank you, Meg. The temps were in the 30s, but it felt like the 40s in today's sweltering heat as Torontonians sought relief. A number of cities' pools and splash pads remain closed. Nelly Kalada has more on how the city is preparing to keep people cool this summer.
With the heat event in full swing, Deanna Salgado is heading straight to the water.
This is the third day we've come for the weekend. I am kayaking or paddleboarding, throughout the lake.
Temperatures across the GTA today soared, at times feeling like in the 40s with the humidity. But for some by the lake, there was relief.
I bring the hat for him and buy the fresh coconut juice for him. And because he's enjoyed the weather here and the view here, so I don't think he feel like too hot today.
Hot there, but still it's really good. It's windy also, so it's good. I am enjoying it, by the way. I have been in extreme conditions. This is nothing in front of that, so I'm very happy.
We walked along the beach and everything was perfect.
6-year-old Zion Brown has his plan figured out to stay cool today.
It's a good temperature, just like a little hot.
So what's your plan for the rest of the day?
Like the rest of the day, go swimming.
But that's easier said than done.
The City of Toronto has opened a few pools and splash pads to help beat the heat, but not all of them are ready. As you can see, this one, bone dry.
Approximately 2,200 staff are required for Toronto beaches, outdoor pools, indoor pools, and wading pools. And currently, there's a lifeguard shortage.
The lifeguard certification program was paused during COVID because, of course, the facilities in which to train and certify lifeguards had closed because of the pandemic. We've been working very, very hard to staff up.
Last week, officials opened 10 pools. The remaining 45 are expected to open Saturday, operating on a partial schedule until schools finish for the year next week, with wading pools expected to open then at the same time. In the meantime, Torontonians can go online and search cool spaces near you to find the closest of more than 300 locations to go.
Things like community centers and libraries and malls and the like, where people can go to get relief from the heat.
Natalie Kalada, CBC News, Toronto.
Anyone looking to escape the heat by getting out on the water is being reminded to be careful. The warning comes after police say they had to rescue several paddle boarders and kayakers last Friday after they were blown offshore by the wind. Police say they only spotted them after getting a call from another paddle boarder who also needed to be rescued. Officers say even on a hot day like today, the water in Lake Ontario remains cold and people can quickly become hypothermic. They're advising anyone heading out to check the marine forecast, bring a phone, and dress for the water temperature, not the air temperature. And of course, wear a life jacket. And today was one of those days you needed that water to help cool off, Colin.
Oh, did you ever? Second day in a row, Dwight, where we've hit a new record high since records being kept back in 1938. Second day in a row, we're over 35 degrees. I'm talking for Toronto, and this is at Pearson. And we're the hot spot in all of Canada today in terms of seeing that kind of heat. Now, there are other records, too. You're seeing some of the others in Ontario. These aren't all of them. There are some in Point Pelee and Lake Simcoe and Bancroft, but I've just put a few down on the board for you. And how about you, Hamilton, 34, just over 34 degrees. And then, of course, it's the humidity in there as well. Well, all of that is improving, but these are the current temperatures. We still certainly have some 30s on the board there, Mississauga, Toronto, into St. Catharines. The humidex values have come down significantly. At one point, we were up at 44. So that's a real drop as this new air mass is kind of working its way in behind the cold front. Dew point's trying to come down too, but you can see we're still holding on because it hasn't really reached you there yet. And St. Catharines, you'll find your dew point dropping back down into the teens and then even lower as well. Some of the active weather from earlier in the day, all off into eastern Ontario. Severe thunderstorm watches pick up around Quinte, Belleville region. And we still have the heat warning. That will be lifted. Why? Because tonight it's going to feel so much better. 16, and tomorrow, Dwight, 27, but only feeling about 30.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
This weather update is brought to you by Charlevoix Train, one of the most beautiful railways in Canada. Discover this spectacular railway from Quebec City.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky delivered a virtual address today to Canadian university students, some attending in person at the University of Toronto. He urged people not to forget about the war in his country, now nearly 4 months into the Russian invasion. Thomas Daigle has the report.
On campuses from Alberta to PEI, he draws a crowd, a worldwide source of inspiration in Ukraine's darkest hour.
He is teaching the world and leading.
President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Thank you.
Speaking to students across Canada as Russia brutalizes his country for 118 days and counting.
Please do not allow anyone to forget about what's going on in Ukraine, to forget about war.
Zelensky has already delivered his message to parliaments and international forums. Now he's addressing universities to help bolster continued support and avoid what some have called Ukraine fatigue.
We were all very impressed and heartened by how quickly the Ukrainians and effectively were able to push back against the Russian invasion, but it's going to go on for a long, long time.
Zelensky appeared at the University of Toronto 3 years ago with a suit and tie and a smile.
We are prepared to surprise the world.
This time, he wore the military fatigues of a president under siege, taking questions from students, even welcoming a dose of humor.
You have been compared to so many cultural icons, ranging from Sir Winston Churchill to Harry Potter.
Hearing directly from Zelensky carried special meaning for Ukrainian exchange student Katerina Luchka. She intends to return home to Chernihiv in December.
I hope that it will be safe to come back there, because last week my hometown was bombed.
Other Ukrainian students also drawing inspiration from Zelensky after sleepless nights spent hearing nightmares from family.
They say, yeah, we can hear like the planes, the fighters, and you understand you can do nothing.
Zelensky told them they're doing something just by spreading the word, ensuring Ukraine's horror isn't forgotten. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
A loved educational assistant at the Toronto District School Board is retiring. Joan Jewison, who is deaf, has been working with deaf and hard of hearing students for 4 decades with the help of an American Sign Language interpreter. Now, Talia Ricci learned more about Joan's career and the impact she's had on students. CBC News has had this story translated for an ASL audience.
Joan Jewison has worked with deaf and hard of hearing students for 41 years. The educational assistant is retiring, a milestone she has mixed feelings about.
I am very excited about the end of the school year, but yeah, at the same time I am sad because I know I'm going to be away from the students. It's been 41 years of seeing these kids every day and being able to interact with them and say, hi, how are you, good morning, and how's things? And it's going to be over, and so I'm moving into the new chapter, my new adventures, and I think that I'm going to be wondering how they're doing, how's it going.
Before working at Northern Secondary School, Jewison worked at Metro Toronto School for the Deaf. She's been known to go above and beyond for her students over the years. For example, creating elaborate educational productions in ASL for students when accessible materials weren't as available.
I love the storytelling. That's my favorite part. And communicating with kids, it's fun, it's interactive. I love seeing children using sign language. And I love socializing with them and being in the classrooms and telling stories to the children and seeing their gaze and their questions to me and their interactions. I really love that part of it.
Within the TDSB, we have deaf students, and we want to ensure that they're learning within an inclusive environment, and the support that Joan and others bring to students ensure that they have a place within our schools.
For Hibbo Abu Baker Ali, her experience having Jewison as an EA helped her decide what she wants to do in the future.
And I want to work with children like her when I'm grown up.
The grade 12 student plans to attend college later this year and follow in Jewison's footsteps.
So we know that Joan's worked here for 41 years, and that just goes to show that some people think that deaf people can't do, but I really look up to Joan and recognize her that as a deaf person who signs, she has full communication with us in the classroom, and that's what I'm looking for. And for any other deaf kids out there, I would say you could do the same thing too.
Proving Jewison's legacy will live beyond her days in the classroom.
And then also when I see them become successful, that makes me happy. When I see them graduate and move on to college and university, I mean, that's wonderful. Or some go directly to the workplace, it's great seeing them, and I love seeing them move on and have their successes. That to me is very satisfying.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
The head of the RCMP and the former public safety minister are being accused of trying to interfere with the investigation into the Nova Scotia massacre. 22 people were killed in the rampage in April of 2020. Documents on the events surrounding the killings were released this week. They contain notes from a senior RCMP officer who claims Commissioner Brenda Lucky pressured local Mounties to release information while the investigation was ongoing. Rafi Bujakanian has more.
Oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We know the Liberals have a track record of interfering in investigations. It's sickening to think that they're using the worst mass shooting in Canadian history for political gain, but it is very possible.
And that was just the start.
He needs ethics. 22 people were brutally murdered.
With respect to the suggestion and the question about my ethics, I'll just consider the source and ignore the comment.
The allegation that RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucky asked for more information from subordinates about the kinds of guns that the shooter in Portapique, Nova Scotia used to kill 22 people. The reason, because she wanted to provide that data to the federal government as it was mulling gun control legislation. And the initial accuser was not the official opposition, but Lucky's own Nova Scotia Superintendent Darren Campbell. Lucky denied the allegation, and so did the government.
The independence of law enforcement operations is a key principle of our democracy. At no point, Mr. Speaker, did our government pressure or interfere in the operational decisions of the RCMP.
That's not exactly what Bill Blair told CBC during an interview right after the shooting.
The weapons used in this offense are very relevant to the work that we have done today. And I believe Canadians will have a better understanding of that when that information becomes available.
And the current public safety minister today,
I'm confident that there was an adherence to the principle of operational independence.
This criminologist says police sometimes do receive political direction, but with the doubt that's been cast over their independence in this case, Ottawa needs to do better than a denial.
It should be the case that Minister Blair give testimony under oath, if for no other reason, to reassure Canadians who are watching that there was nothing untoward. As he says, there wasn't. There's no harm, therefore, in giving that under oath.
Pressure likely to keep increasing. Now, the law firm representing families of a dozen victims in the Nova Scotia shooting says its clients are disturbed and it wants the Mass Casualty Commission to cross-examine all witnesses and get to the bottom of what happened. Rafi Bujikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The federal government has suspended its funding to Hockey Canada. The decision is a reaction to the way the organization handled the out-of-court settlement of a sexual assault complaint.
I've decided to suspend any future public funding until they meet two very simple but important conditions. The first one is that they submit the incomplete report and the recommendations and the plan how they're going to implement those recommendations to Sport Canada. And the second condition is that they sign an agreement with the new office of the Integrity and Sport Commissioner.
Executives with Hockey Canada appeared before a Commons Committee to answer questions about the settlement. Canada's sports minister says information provided by the organization was insufficient, but what the committee did learn was deeply troubling. Hockey Canada quietly settled a lawsuit last month after a woman claimed she was assaulted by members of the country's 2018 gold medal winning junior hockey team in June of that year. Toronto Maple Leafs star Austin Matthews made history last night, becoming just the third player in franchise history to win the MVP award. He also took home the most outstanding player trophy voted by his NHL peers. Dale Manukduk has more on his journey from the minor leagues to the game's best player.
And the Ted Lindsay Award goes to
Austin Matthews.
And the heart goes to Austin Matthews from the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Thank you. Hello again.
It was a big night for Leaf center Austin Matthews, who picked up the league's top honors from both hockey writers and fellow players.
Kept in by Matthews. Here it is. There's a new member of the 60-goal club.
50 goals means you are in the elite of the elite. But to get to 60, I mean, that's something that, quite frankly, very few people ever reached. The last guy to do it was Steven Stamkos about a decade ago.
Shot, whose puck scores?
He had already banked the Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy for the league's top goal scorer during the 2021-22 regular season, which he's now won 2 years in a row. Matthews becomes the first Leafs player to hoist the Hart since Ted Kennedy in 1955. But when you add the Rookie of the Year, the scoring titles, and last night's haul, it's clear the Buds have never had a player like this, a bona fide superstar.
It's very rare, and very few players are able to do kind of what he's been able to do. And in Toronto Maple Leafs history, it's never been done. So for someone to be this good at such an early age, you just got to think, what's coming next?
Puck out in front, Matthews scores! A hat-trick! Oh my goodness, what a debut!
From his 4-goal debut in front of Leafs Nation and his parents, his latest accolades are just that, the latest. Matthews was dominating at age 14. He was a leader on the Arizona Bobcats. His former coach, Ron Filion, isn't surprised and says his success has made it possible for young kids there to dream big.
14, 15, 16, started playing
against all those teams from Detroit and Illinois and all the top teams, even teams in Canada. When we went to BC, we played against a group that was 2 years older than us, and he led us all the way to the championships.
A Stanley Cup championship is about the only thing missing now for Matthews' resume.
I think Matthews understands the benefits of playing in Toronto in terms of what it brings him off the ice and what it could bring him if he ever was to win in Toronto. I think he understands that.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
It was a great day for Canadians today at the World Aquatics Championships in Budapest.
The champion from Canada who takes the gold medal. Well done, Summer McIntosh, in a world junior record, a gold medal at 15.
You heard it there. That's Summer McIntosh powering her way to a gold medal in the women's 200-meter butterfly, her second career medal at the Worlds. But first, atop the podium, meanwhile, 19-year-old Josh Liendo swam to bronze in the men's 100-meter freestyle. Both McIntosh and Liendo are from the GTA, and not long after that, Kylie Mass captured the country's second gold medal of the day in the 50-meter backstroke. Canada would later take bronze in the women's 4x200-meter freestyle relay. All told, a lot of hardware for the Canadians today. Big round of applause for the Canadians, and a lot of us wish we were in that pool with them today, Colin.
Oh, yeah, we needed it, right? Yeah, a lot of talent there. For sure. I was talking about earlier the new record for Toronto Pearson at 35.2, but I'll tell you today, not this hour, but today's hot spot in all of Canada, actually Toronto downtown at 35.4 degrees. Yes, talk about that. Well, sleep like a baby. You know that phrase, and when you think about it, babies don't always sleep that well. But let's just go with how this phrase is kind of intended, which is tonight, I anticipate you'll be able to dial back the air conditioner a little bit, maybe open the windows, and just be a little bit more comfortable. We've got a stretch of dry weather in terms of sunshine for the next few days here, and the daytime highs are going to be trending warm as opposed to trending hot and sticky. We've got at least a day and a half to 2 days before the humidity begins building on us again. So daytime highs, look at those for today. 35 there at Pearson. The current temperature has dropped 5 degrees from there. And then what's interesting too is from the Humidex values in the afternoon hours at St. Catharines at 40, 37 in Toronto. At one point it was up to 44. They've begun coming down. It's slow. It's going to be an ease, but it does happen as those dew points keep falling and this new air mass moves in. So the heat warning's still in place, but these will be lifted here as we go towards the later evening hours and temperatures begin cooling off with that northwesterly breeze. The active weather into eastern Ontario, some of that dying down, though we've had those severe thunderstorm watches that are still in play in that region. Golden Horseshoe, no concerns for tonight. You'll just notice it is a little breezy at times, and even tomorrow you might notice the winds kicking up a bit, 30, 40 kilometers an hour with some of the gusts. But look at how clear the sky is with high pressure in place, and we are just looking at all of that sunshine. So overnight tonight, we'll see our lows around 14 to 16 for the overnight lows, and for tomorrow, 27, a little above seasonal, but feeling 30. Nice day Friday. Still a chance for a few scattered showers Sunday afternoon. I know that's an important day with the Pride Parade.
Yes, lots of folks will be out partying. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
The pandemic has posed challenges for many, including students, especially in the early days of isolation and online learning. Turns out some have fallen behind when it comes to key skills like math and literacy. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson has more.
This 11-year-old already has big dreams. Isabella Creel is hoping to take an international business program in high school, then attend university abroad. But she's hit a big obstacle. Her math mark plummeted this year.
So this one is fine, this one's fine.
Mother and daughter suspect it's a result of the cumulative disruption of the pandemic.
The first report card this year went from 78 to 40. And to me, that was really alarming.
I don't think it's really fair how fast we do one thing and then once we finally get used to it, we quickly move to another.
Isabella is not alone. Last year, a Quebec survey of elementary and secondary students found that 1/4 of them were failing math. far higher than usual. And in many other regions of the country, students' performance in math and another key subject, literacy, lags behind the pre-pandemic levels. This education professor looked at Alberta's standardized literacy tests from last year and found that some students in the youngest grades were 8 to 12 months behind where they should be. This school year, the gap deepened even further.
Many classes went online. Many teachers were sick and they were replaced by substitute teachers, which disturbed the learning and the sequence of teaching.
The solution, he says, intervention classes, like the ones he designed, already happening in Alberta schools.
Wet, water, and wish.
Specialized teachers like Lisa Michael meet with students who need help 3 to 4 times a week for about 35 minutes.
If students don't have the reading and writing skills, when they move into the higher grades, they lack confidence. And I've seen students that receive intervention get really excited about their learning and have those aha moments of, I can do this. Oh, wow, this is awesome. It's getting easier for me. Okay, who knows this one?
Just some of the ways kids are catching up so they can achieve their full potential. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
The National Historical Commission of the Philippines unveiled a historical marker for Jose Rizal at Earl Bales Park this morning.
This historical marker is a small token of gratitude from a grateful people to our national hero who sacrificed his life, and he was among the founder of a great country that we now call the Republic of the Philippines.
Rizal was a Philippine national hero, a physician and educator who fought for the rights of Filipino people under Spanish colonialist rule in the late 1800s. The marker states he advocated for nonviolent struggle for freedom but was charged with inciting dissent. He was executed in December 1896. His martyrdom inspired a sense of nationhood that eventually led to Philippine independence in 1898. The statue of Rizal was given to the city of Toronto by the Philippine government in 1998 on the centennial of Filipino independence. As we head to break, let's take a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX falling by 253 points. The Dow also down by 47. And the dollar traded lower at 77.27 cents US. We'll be right back. A high school north of the city was put into hold and secure after a bear was spotted nearby. Durham police were called to Beaverton after this young bear was spotted swimming in someone's pond. It wandered down a residential street, snacked on some birdseed, and took a rest under a tree before marching off into some green space. It seems everyone was looking for a way to cool off today. Colette, even the bear had to go to the backyard to take a dip in the pond.
Yeah, when you have heat like that, it can be disorienting too, so you're not exactly sure where you are or what's going on. Well, relief is on the way. That cold front continues passing through the province and well down into the U.S., so you can see the storminess along it. We are into a ridge of high pressure, clear skies, clear tonight, sunshine tomorrow, a few days, in fact. We're going to stack together with some sunny conditions. So that's where that front is. It changes the wind direction. It moves this new air mass in, which is not as sticky. So we will eventually see this heat warning being dropped later on today. Overnight, 16. Tomorrow, above seasonal. This time of year, daytime high around 25 would be seasonal, so a little bit above, but important that it's only going to feel about 30 as opposed to feeling like about 45 like it did earlier today. So then a look at what happens as we go forward from there. Let's go past 3-day all the way to the 5-day and show you that we'll see the temperatures actually building again, Dwight, and also the humidity will as we go towards Saturday.
No relief exactly in sight, but it is a party weekend.
Short, yeah. Tomorrow will feel like a little bit of relief.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
That is it for us tonight. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Stay safe out there, everybody.